Chapter 2 Test of Metal. Gothir narrowed his eyes at the cluster of trees northwest of the road, Gary's low hoot echoing in his ears. Without hesitation, he shifted in the saddle, muttering an incantation under his breath. A surge of arcane energy crackled through his fingertips, sharp and electric, before he flicked his wrist. 3 shimmering darts of force, tinged with a faint electric hue, streaked through the night air with a high-pitched whine, slamming into the underbrush. Leaves shredded apart as sparks scattered through the darkness. A startled yelp shattered the silence. Something, or someone, stumbled back through the undergrowth, twigs snapping under hurried steps. A scrawny goblin tumbled from the bushes, clutching a rusty dagger, its beady eyes wide with panic. A second later, another goblin, slightly larger with a notched ear, burst into the open, snarling as it brandished a crude spear. It hesitated when it spotted the 2 riders, Gothir astride his warhorse, his owl glaring from his arm, and Lirien beside him, already reaching for her blade. Lirien's mare reared slightly before she reined it in with a sharp curse. "Bloody hell's goat!" she snapped, shooting him a glare as she steadied her mount. "You trying to start a war, or just flush out supper?" Her keen eyes swept the tree-line. Pathetic, but goblins don't travel alone. The first goblin scrambled to its feet, gibbering in its harsh tongue while pointing frantically at Gothir. The larger one let out a low growl, gripping its spear tighter but not yet advancing. The road behind them remained clear, the night unervingly still save for the goblin's chattering and the whisper of rustling leaves. The spell had done its job. 1 slot spent, but the message was clear. Gothir Grimgraw did not play games. The goblin's frantic chattering grated on Gothir's nerves, their beady eyes glinting in the starlight as they brandished their pitiful weapons. He didn't hesitate. With a sharp gesture and a muttered incantation, arcane power surged through him, the air around him humming with static. Energy crackled along his fingertips as he summoned a flaming sphere, though this time not of fire. Instead, a sizzling orb of electric energy burst into existence, hovering just above the ground. Lightning arced across its surface, jagged bolts snapping outward like a living storm. The bluish glow bathed the road in flickering light, casting wild shadows as Gothir flicked his wrist, sending the orb rolling forward with a venomous buzz. The goblins shrieked in unison. The smaller one dived into the underbrush, disappearing with a rustling flurry of leaves. The larger one, with its notched ear and crude spear, wasn't fast enough. The sphere slammed into the creature, discharging a violent burst of sparks. Its body convulsed as electricity tore through it, the charge searing into flesh and rattling bone. The goblin howled, its spear clattering to the ground as it staggered back. Its patchy tunic smoldered where the lightning had struck, its limbs twitching uncontrollably as it collapsed into the dirt, alive but dazed. The acrid scent of burnt hair and ozone filled the air. Lirien yanked her mare back a step, half drawing her dagger as she stared at the crackling sphere. "God's goat, you don't play subtle, do you?" she muttered, equal parts awe and exasperation. She tilted her head toward the bushes. "That's one down, or close to it. Keep that thing rolling, or you want me to handle the other." The sphere hovered at Gothir's command, sparking and humming, waiting to be directed. It would hold for a little while longer, his control over it stable, sustainable for a few more moments if needed. Beyond the shimmering light, the road was quiet again, save for the pained whimpers of the twitching goblin and the faint rustle in the trees where its companion had fled. Perched on Gothir's arm, Gary remained perfectly still, his sharp golden gaze locked on the tree-line. Watching, waiting. Gothir exhaled, the lingering hum of magic still coursing through his veins. The spell had cost him, another notch taken from his reserves, but the message was clear. He wasn't here to negotiate with vermin. The electric flaming sphere crackled in the air, its flickering blue glow casting jagged shadows along the dirt road. The larger goblin lay twitching, barely conscious, its patchy tunic still smoldering from the surge of energy. Gothir didn't waste time. His hand slipped into his robes, fingers closing around the wand of magic missile. With a practiced flick of his wrist, he aimed it toward the bushes where the smaller goblin had fled, muttering the activation word under his breath. 3 force darts shimmered into existence, their edges tinged with his signature electric hue. They lanced through the air in a high-pitched whine, piercing the undergrowth with unerring precision. A sharp yelp echoed from the trees, followed by the sound of frantic stumbling, wounded but still moving. The creature wasn't dead yet. Gothir's gaze flicked to Lirien. His voice was calm, commanding. "Track down the runner." He gestured toward the dense brush, keeping his wand raised. "I'll handle this one." Above them, Gary took flight, wings slicing through the night air as he circled high, golden eyes locked onto the chaos below. Lirien smirked, sharp and confident, as she pulled her dagger free. "On it, goat," she said. Without hesitation, she swung down from her mare, landing in a crouch before tying the reins to a low-hanging branch. In one fluid motion, she darted toward the trees, slipping into the shadows like a predator on the hunt. The bushes rustled in her wake, then stilled. Back on the road, the larger goblin groaned, dragging itself toward its fallen spear. The flaming sphere hummed at Gothir's side, still active, its energy pulsing in the night air. 3 rounds of power left before it would dissipate. Horse snorted and shifted beneath him, ears flicking back, sensing the tension. The night around them felt poised on a knife's edge, silent save for the distant sound of Lirien's pursuit. For now, the goblin lay at his feet, dazed but alive, a problem still waiting to be solved. Gothir narrowed his eyes at the dazed goblin clawing toward its fallen spear, its notched ear twitching as it groaned in the dirt. With a flick of his wrist, the flaming sphere surged forward, crackling with renewed intensity. The electric orb rolled across the muddy road, snapping with jagged bolts of lightning as it barreled toward the creature. The goblin looked up, its beady eyes widening in terror. Too slow. The sphere slammed into its frail body with a sizzling burst. Electricity arced through its limbs, its shriek rising into the night before cutting off in a sharp, guttural cry. The stench of ozone and burnt flesh filled the air as its charred form collapsed, motionless. The flaming sphere hovered where the goblin had fallen, pulsing with eerie blue light, its power lingering, 2 rounds left. Horse snorted, shifting beneath Gothir as the residual energy crackled in the air. Above, Gary soared in wide circles, his golden eyes tracking movement in the underbrush. Then, a sharp cry from the trees. "Quick! Cut off fast!" A crunch of leaves followed, and moments later, Lirien emerged from the shadows, wiping her dagger on the edge of her cloak. A streak of dark goblin blood stained the blade. Her breathing was steady, her green eyes sharp with satisfaction. "Got the little bastard," she said, sheathing her weapon as she strode back to the road. She untied her mare with practiced ease, glancing once toward the bushes. Tried to climb a tree, should have stuck to running. Just the 2 of them, looks like. Scavengers, probably. Nothing worth looting but this. She tossed a crude bone necklace onto the ground. The string of jagged teeth clattered against the dirt. The road fell silent again, the goblin threat erased. The flaming sphere's glow dimmed slightly, its magic waning. Gothir flexed his fingers, feeling the familiar ebb of his power. 1 second-level spell slot down, 3 left. The wand in his grasp still hummed with energy, though he knew it had only 19 charges remaining. Lirien mounted up, her gaze flicking to Gothir with a nod. "Nice trick with that lightning ball, goat. You're not just talk after all." She tilted her head toward the trees. We riding on, or you want to poke around their mess?" Gothir nudged horse forward, his gaze falling to the crude bone necklace in the dirt. He leaned down from the saddle, scooping it up with a quick flick of his fingers. The goblin-carved bones were rough, strung together in a jagged pattern, primitive but maybe worth keeping. He dangled it between his fingers, inspecting it before tucking it into his robes. "I'll take the necklace," he said with an easy smirk. "You can have the rest, Elle." Gary fluttered down from above, perching lightly on Gothir's shoulder, his feathers brushing against his cheek. Lirien snorted, pocketing the meager handful of coins and kicking the rusty dagger aside with her boot. "Fair enough, goat," she said, mounting her mare in a smooth motion. "Necklace suits you, got that kingly vibe you're always on about. The rest of this trash'll keep me in ale for a night." She patted the small pouch tied to her saddlebag, the faint clink of copper and silver punctuating her words. "2 less goblins to stink up the road. Not a bad start." The night settled again, the hum of magic fading into the rustle of wind through the trees. Crickets chirped faintly in the underbrush. The road stretched west toward Dunmere, still a day and a half away. Horse snorted, eager to move. Lirien adjusted her hood, green eyes catching Gothir's as she reined her mare alongside him. "Let's ride then," she said, nudging her horse into a steady trot. "Sooner we hit Dunmere, sooner we figure out what's charring those fields, and get that 200 gold Ketra promised." She cast a glance back at him, waiting. Gothir grinned, tapping his heels to horses' sides. The 2 riders pressed forward, the dirt road vanishing beneath their hooves as they disappeared into the night. Gothir tucked the bone necklace deeper into his robes, its rough edges pressing against his chest as he nudged horse forward. The warhorse picked up a steady trot, falling in beside Lirien's grey mare as they continued westward along the muddy road. Above, Gary soared ahead, a dark silhouette against the starry sky, his sharp eyes scanning the terrain. The cool night air carried the scent of pine and damp earth, and the remnants of their goblin skirmish faded into the darkness behind them. Gothir tilted his head toward Lirien, his voice smooth, deliberate. "I could make you a lady," he mused, letting the words roll out with a mix of charm and promise. "Give you status, land, whatever job you wanted. But ladies of the court'll have to bear children. Gotta keep the families going, even if it's not with me." His grin turned teasing as he shot her a sidelong glance. "Of course, there's always a way to work things out." The necklace shifted slightly in his robes, a small reminder of the night's earlier victory, while Gary glided above, his wings whispering through the air. Lirien let out a sharp laugh, her mare sidestepping before she reined it back in. "A lady, huh? Me in a fancy dress, sipping tea while some brat tugs at my skirts." She shook her head, smirking wide. "You've got a wild imagination, goat. Status and land sound nice, can't lie about that, but I'd sooner stick a dagger in my eye than play nursemaid to a litter of nobles." Her green eyes flicked to his, glinting with amusement as she leaned forward in her saddle. "Not saying I'd turn down a chunk of dirt to call my own, though. Maybe I'd be your... what, captain of the guard? Keep the riffraff in line while you build your dynasty. Kids, though, that's a hard pass, unless you've got a spell to make 'em pop out fully grown and armed." Her tone was light, but something flickered beneath it, half curiosity, half testing the edges of the idea. The wind picked up, rustling the tall grass as she straightened, brushing a strand of dark hair from her face. "You're serious about this king thing, aren't you?" she asked, watching him now, her smirk softening. "Not just tavern talk. What's the first step, besides blasting goblins and charming sellswords like me?" Ahead, the road dipped toward a sparse line of trees. Gary swooped low, hooting softly. Still clear, no threats yet. Dunmere lay a day's ride away, the night stretching quiet between them. Gothir kept horse's pace steady, his gaze flicking to Lirien. His voice cut through the stillness. "So, once I make my kingdom," he said, a touch of that mage-king ambition creeping into his tone, "would you want to be there?" His afro swayed slightly with horse's gait, but his attention stayed locked on her, watching for her reaction. Half serious, half banter, all Gothir. Lirien kept her gaze forward, her hood shadowing her expression. Then she let out a low chuckle, glancing at him sidelong. "What, you recruiting me already, goat?" Her voice was dry but warm. "A kingdom, huh? If you pull that off, asterisk asterisk big. If, asterisk asterisk I might swing by. Not for the crown or the kids, mind you, but a place where villages don't burn and the ale flows free. Could do worse." She shifted in her saddle, resting a hand near her dagger. "I'd be no lady-in-waiting, though. Too much blood on these hands. Maybe I'd guard your gates, keep the greedy bastards out." She arched a brow. "What's in it for me, besides watching you play king?" Her tone was teasing, but there was something else there. Real curiosity, a glimpse of something beyond their usual back and forth. The open grassland stretched around them, the hills rolling gently toward the horizon. Gary swooped lower, hooting once. Nothing urgent, just keeping watch. Dunmere was still a day and change away, and the night belonged to them. Gothir nudged horse a little closer to Lirien's mare, his voice dropping into that smooth, confident register as he flashed her a grin. "Well, if you had my children," he said, leaning into the idea with an unmistakable teasing edge, "you'd just be down while pregnant, few months tops. After that, the staff'd take care of the kid. You'd be back swinging that dagger in no time, ruling your own chunk of land or barking orders as captain. Easy." He winked, his afro shifting slightly with emotion as Gary flapped ahead, his golden eyes cutting through the night. Lirien burst out laughing, a full, unrestrained sound that echoed over the fields. She slapped her thigh, nearly dropping her reins before catching them again. "God's goat, you've got it all figured out, don't you?" she said, still chuckling as she wiped a tear from her eye. "Me, waddling around with your spawn, then handing it off to some wet nurse while I storm the gates? You're a lunatic, and I mean that as a compliment." Her smirk returned, sharp and playful. "I'll give you this. You dream big. But I'm not popping out heirs for your dynasty, staff or no staff. Captain, though, that's got a ring to it. I'd keep your kingdom's edges sharp, long as the pay's good and the ale's better." Her green eyes flicked to his, half joking, half testing, still playing the game, just not on his baby-making terms. She tilted her head, her smirk fading just a touch. "You didn't answer me, though. What's the first step? Coin from Dunmere's a start, but a mage-king needs more than a few hundred gold and a goblin necklace. You got a plan, or you just winging it, till the crown fits?" Her voice was lighter than before, but the question was real. No more flirting, no more sidestepping. The road dipped into a shallow hollow, trees looming on either side. The night remained still. Gary's hoot came soft and steady. No trouble yet. Horse picked up his pace slightly, his hooves stirring the damp earth. The bone necklace jostled faintly in Gothir's robes as he rode beside Lirien, the air between them charged with possibility. She was waiting. What came next was his move. Gothir let out a hearty laugh, the sound rolling over the quiet road as he gave horse a light pat on the neck. "That's fair," he said, grinning at Lirien. "You drive a hard bargain. You'll love me one day, though. I'm calling it now." His wink was as bold as his words, and he settled back in the saddle, his afro catching the faint breeze as he shifted to her question. "The plan," he exhaled, considering. "Honestly, I'm waiting for a war. Way things are going, It'll only take a hair to break some treaties. I figure I'll work with some lord. Get in good, snag some land. They're always tossing that out to keep folks loyal. Then I build my power from within. Or, if I gather an army first, I could just take someone's land." He smirked, but there was a glint in his eye, Gothir's ambition simmering beneath the surface. He guided horse along the narrowing road, the trees overhead casting dappled shadows as he tilted his head thoughtfully. "I was thinking about Lord Clington," he mused. "His mountains are advanced, forges, mines, all that, but the land outside's untouched, ripe for the taking. Could work my way in there, maybe. But I never thought about the Pale Hills." Lirien's suggestion hung in his mind, and he rubbed his chin. "That'd take a good crew to clear out. Beasts or worse, from what you say. I'd have to round up some muscle, some loyal blades." His grin flickered back, ambition lighting his eyes as Gary glided ahead, hooting softly. Lirien nodded, her smirk softening into something more thoughtful as she reined her mare around a muddy patch. "Clington, huh? Good pick. Dwarvesby got deep pockets and deeper grudges. His mountain's a fortress, but you're right. His foothills are a mess. Untamed, full of scrub and old trails. He'd probably toss you a scrap just to keep the riffraff off his doorstep. Play nice, fix a problem or two, and you're in. Dwarves love a worker, especially one who can zap goblins into ash." She chuckled, then tilted her head toward the north, though the Pale Hills were far beyond sight. "But the Pale Hills? That's a gamble." Her tone shifted, more serious. "Ruins up there, old magic, they say. Wolves bigger than horse, and things that don't howl but still hunt. I passed near it once. Felt wrong, even from a distance. You'd need more than just blades. You'd need brains too. Someone's got to figure out what's lurking." She studied him, green eyes sharp. "Clington's the safer bet. Land, a title, maybe a forge to bankroll you. Pale Hills would be a conquest. Bigger payoff, bigger risk. You got a knack for picking fights. Goat. Goblins today, wolves tomorrow. Where'd you even find your muscle? Guilds got bodies, but loyalty's another beast." The road dipped into a shallow ford, water splashing under hooves. Lirien smirked, watching him. "Love you, huh? Keep dreaming, goat. You're persistent, I'll give you that," she said, her voice warm with amusement. "A war, though? Smart. Valthorn's a powder keg. Lords bickering, borders shifting. Hitching to one's a solid play. They're desperate for mages with your tricks. Land's the key, wild or not. I've heard of spots up north, beyond the Pale Hills. Old ruins, beasts aplenty. No one's bothered to tame it. Could be your start, if you don't mind clawing it out of the dirt." She shrugged, her hand brushing her dagger as she scanned the trees creeping closer to the road. "Armies trickier. Need coin, bodies, loyalty. You've got the charm for it, maybe. Me, I'd stick to the Lord route. Less blood, till you're ready to spill it." Her green eyes flicked to him, sharp and appraising. "You've got a head for this, I'll admit. More than just sparks and swagger. Ever think which lord you'd cozy up to? Or still picking?" The road narrowed, trees forming a loose canopy overhead. Gary swooped low, hooting softly. Still clear, but the wilds felt closer now. Gothir let out a low whistle, his grin widening as he pictured it. He leaned forward in the saddle, excitement sparking in his voice. "Wolves bigger than horses. Sounds like a hell of a cavalry if I could tame him. Imagine me riding one into battle. Would be pretty damn awesome." Lirien let out a bark of laughter. "Gods, goat, you on a giant wolf? That'd turn heads. Probably scare the shit out of Clington's guards before you even opened your mouth." She shook her head, grinning. "Taming 'em, though? You'd need more than a spell and a pat on the head. Those beasts sooner rip your arm off than bow. Still, I'd pay to see you try." She wiped water from her boot as they reached the far bank. "You're right about rank, though. Dwarves don't care about promises. They want results. Dunmere's a start. 200 gold and a dead beast might get you a nord. Stack a few more wins, and Clington might actually listen. Maybe send him a goblin head as a gift. Dwarves like trophies." Her mare climbed the bank, hooves crunching dry grass. "Pale Hill's wolves be a legend maker, though. Tame one, and your name spread faster than wildfire. Risky as hell, but that's your style, isn't it?" She turned to him, curiosity plain now. "What's your next move after Dunmere, then? More guild jobs, or you sniffing out bigger game already?" Gothir eased horse into a slower gait, flashing her a grin. "Gotta make it past Dunmere first," he said, his tone easy, confident. "And I gotta see if you stick around." He winked, letting the tease settle. Lirien smirked, her mare slowing to match his pace. "Oh, I'm not running off yet, goat," she said, dry but warm. "Dunmere's got my curiosity. 50 gold and a beast to stick a blade in? I'm in. After that, depends how much trouble you drag me into." She chuckled, then glanced at the sky. Stars bright, moon climbing. "Yeah, you're right. Been riding a while since those goblins. Horses need a break, and I wouldn't mind a fire. Spot up ahead looks decent. Flat, some trees for cover." She pointed to a clearing just off the road. The night was deep now, crisp and heavy with a scent of earth and pine. Horse snorted, ears flicking, while Lirien's mare shook her mane, ready for rest. The bone necklace shifted in Gothir's robes, a quiet reminder of the day's win. Gothir guided horse toward the clearing. "Let's set up camp and get a fire going," he said, patting the saddlebag slung over horse's flank. "I've got some ale packed." Lirien arched a brow. "Ale, huh? You're full of surprises, goat." She swung down from her saddle with practiced ease. "Good thing I don't mind drinking with a wannabe king. Fire's on me. Let's see if you can keep up." She tied her mare to a pine, pulled a hatchet from her pack, and strode toward the trees. Gothir dismounted, retrieving 2 small clay bottles sealed with wax. Sharp, malty ale from Valthorn. As he turned, Gary perched on a low branch, golden eyes gleaming. Lirien returned minutes later, tossing dry wood into a pile before striking flint to spark a flame. The fire crackled, its glow flickering across her face. "There!" She sat back on her heels, smirking. "Your turn, goat. Crack that ale open. Night's cold, and I'm not sipping goblin blood to warm up." Gothir popped the wax seal on one of the clay bottles, the sharp scent of ale cutting through the crisp, piney air. He took a quick swig, the malty bite warming his throat before setting the bottle aside. Digging into horse's saddlebag, he pulled out his tent, a sturdy canvas thing, big enough for 3, a perk from his guild days. As he worked, driving stakes into the soft earth with practiced ease, the firelight flickered across his caramel skin and broad shoulders, highlighting the flecks of muscle beneath. The tent was half up when he glanced at Lirien, bottle in hand. "Where's your tent?" he asked, raising an eyebrow as he took another slow sip, then tossed her the bottle with casual ease. Lirien caught it midair, her smirk widening as she leaned back against a tree. "Tent?" she scoffed, taking a long drink before wiping her mouth with the back of her hand. "Don't need one. I travel light. Cloak and a bedroll's good enough for me. Been sleeping under stars since I was a kid. You guild types and your fancy setups. Soft, goat, real soft." Her tone was teasing, but her eyes flicked to his half-built tent with a flicker of curiosity. "That thing's big enough for a party. What, you planning to invite Horse in there too?" Gothir chuckled, tightening the last rope before leaning against the tent's frame. "You're more than welcome to sleep in it," he said, tone steady and earnest. "I won't try anything. I'm a charmer, not a thief. I don't take what doesn't want to be given." He flashed a small grin, then nodded at the tent. "You never know when you're gonna need to hold people on a mission. Learned that the hard way." He settled onto the ground near the fire, stretching his legs as the story unfolded. "Had a job once. Goblins snatched some village kids. Tracked 'em down, blasted the little bastards. Took a few heads, even. But night fell fast, and we were too far from the village to make it back. Cold hit like a hammer, wind howling, frost creeping in. Had this same tent, just big enough for me and the 4 kids we pulled out. Bundled 'em up, kept 'em alive, till dawn. No one died that night, 'cause I planned ahead, even if it don't always look like it." He took another swig, then passed the bottle back to her, his eyes steady with the memory. Lirien listened, her smirk softening as she took the ale, her fingers brushing his briefly in the handoff. She sipped, staring into the firelight for a moment before responding. "That's a good story, goat." Her voice was quieter now, less edged. "Kids, huh? Goblins are nasty about that. Steal anything not nailed down. You did right by 'em." She swirled the ale, then glanced at the tent, her green eyes catching the glow. "All right, you win. I'll take the tent. Not 'cause I'm soft, mind you, but I'd rather not wake up with frost on my ass. Don't get any ideas though, charmer or not. I sleep with my dagger close." Her smirk returned, but it was warmer now, less guarded. She nodded at him. "Planning ahead's smart. Didn't peg you for the type at first. All flash and swagger. Guess there's more to you than big talk." The fire crackled, sending sparks spiraling into the night. Gary preened on his branch, and the horses settled, their breathing soft in the background. Gothir polished off the last of his ale, setting the empty bottle by the fire with a soft clink. "Well, I'm turning in." He ducked into the tent, its canvas walls rustling as he stepped inside. The robes came off first, revealing a body built for more than just magic. Corded muscle rippling under caramel skin, broad shoulders tapering to a lean waist, the kind of build that spoke more to brawling than book reading. He tossed the shirt aside just as Lirien ducked in behind him, her bedroll tucked under her arm. She froze for a split second, green eyes widening as they traced over his physique. Then just as quickly, she scoffed, her smirk creeping back. "God's goat, you're built like a damn ox." Gothir flashed a grin, rolling his shoulders as he grabbed his furs and pillow. "Sorry, I sleep with no shirt on," he said, tone easy, teasing. "But I'll leave the pants on, for you. To feel comfy." Lirien let out a low whistle as she tossed down her bedroll. "What kind of mage are you? Most I've met look like a stiff-breezed snaphem. You hiding a warhammer under that spellbook?" She kicked off her boots, keeping her cloak and tunic on, though she loosened her belt, dagger within reach, just as promised. She stretched out on her bedroll, propping herself on an elbow as the fire's glow filtered faintly through the canvas. "Good call on the pants. I'd hate to stab a king-to-be over a misunderstanding." Her smirk was playful, but her eyes lingered a moment longer before she turned away, adjusting her furs. The tent was snug, the air warm from their bodies and the nearby fire. Gary perched outside, while the horses huffed softly in the clearing. Gothir stretched out, one arm propped behind his head, watching her for a moment. Then, with a slow, easy grin, he said, "Hey, Elle, want to touch my abs?" Lirien, halfway through arranging her bedroll, froze. Her green eyes flicked to him, equal parts amusement and disbelief. "What?" Gothir propped himself on an elbow, smirking. "No strings attached, I swear. I won't touch you. Just giving you a free pass to feel the goods." Lirien let out a sharp laugh, shaking her head. "Gods, you're shameless. A free pass? What's next? You gonna flex and ask me to name your biceps?" She leaned forward slightly, eyes darting to his torso, then back to his face, mischief flickering beneath the sarcasm. She hesitated, then shrugged. Scooting closer, she reached out, brushing her fingers lightly over his abs, like testing a blade's edge. The touch was quick, her fingers cool against his skin, and she pulled back just as fast, wiping her hand on her tunic as if to shake off the moment. "All right, I'll give you this. They're solid." She chuckled, settling back onto her bedroll. "Happy now, charmer?" Gothir's grin widened. "Very." Lirien rolled her eyes, stretching out, dagger close as she tucked her arm under her head. "No strings, huh? Good. 'Cause I'd hate to ruin that pretty face if you tried." The fire crackled outside, casting dancing shadows against the canvas walls. The tent was quiet now, the air warm, the night stretching deep and undisturbed. Lirien's voice came, softer now. "Sleep tight, goat. Dream of your kingdom and your 30 kids." Gothir chuckled, letting his eyes slip closed. She was half smiling, he was sure of it. And for now, that was enough. You flash Lirien one last grin, your voice dipping into that smooth, charming register as you settle into your furs. "Guess I'll just have to dream of you guarding my kingdom shirtless. Keep the wolves at bay with that dagger and a wink," you say, tossing her the quip with a playful edge. She snorts softly, a muffled laugh escaping as you roll over, pulling the furs up to your shoulders. Gary's faint hoot drifts in from outside, and the fire's glow dims through the canvas as you close your eyes, aiming for sleep. But Dunmere lingers in your mind, gnawing at the edges of rest. The charred corpses, the claw marks. Goblins were nothing, but what's out there? A drake, maybe, scales glinting in the dark, fire licking at its jaws? Or something worse, something wilder, like those pale hills wolves Lirien mentioned? You picture yourself facing it, electric sphere crackling, wand spitting force, your name growing with every blast. Clington's foothills flicker in your thoughts too. Land to claim, a step toward that mage-king dream. 30 kids, a dynasty, a kingdom where villages don't burn. It's big, messy, and keeps your heart thumping as the night deepens. Lirien's breathing steadies beside you, slow and even, her bedroll rustling faintly as she shifts. The tent's warm, the air thick with pine and smoke, and horse snorts outside, a grounding sound. Sleep tugs at you, but Dunmere's shadow holds you awake a while longer, your mind spinning with plans and possibilities. Eventually, exhaustion wins, and you drift off, visions of lightning and thrones fading into the dark.